Welcome to this special video edition of Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox. Today my guest is one of the most courageous women in the world, a member of the Afghanistan Parliament, Malalai Joya. And I'm going to let her tell her story, but we're just very honored to have her on today. BBC has called her the most famous woman in Afghanistan. Welcome to Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox today.
Thank you. Thanks for this interview.
And the first thing I want to ask you is a question that I get all the time. I have recently published a book, and I want you to talk about your book later, but everywhere I go, you know, of course, was against invasions and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan. I have been calling for our troops to be withdrawn, but everywhere I go, people who support this new administration, the Obama administration, tell me that we have to keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan to protect the women. What is your answer to that? What is your feeling about that?
Yeah, after 9/11 tragedy, U.S. and its allies, they invaded my country under the banner of women's rights, human rights, and democracy. But unfortunately, they pushed us from the frying pan to the fire, because they replaced the Taliban with the North Alliance fundamentalists, who are brother and creed of the Taliban, and did civil war in Afghanistan from 92 to 96. And same like Taliban, they did many crimes against women's rights, human rights. To know better about them, you can see Human Rights Watch website, Amnesty International website, and many books has been written about them. But unfortunately, they imposed on my people, means physically has been changed, but mentally they are same. That's why today Afghanistan is a safe haven for terrorism and also the center of drug. And right now my people is squashed between two powerful enemies. From the sky, occupation forces bombing and killing civilians under the name of Taliban. In the ground, Taliban and warlords continue to their fascism. But unfortunately, when Mr. Obama took office, his first news for my people was more conflict and war, because his foreign policy regarding my country quite similar like foreign policy of criminal Bush, that 8 years is enough to know better about the wrong policy. If really Mr. Obama honest for Afghan people, first of all, he must end this tragic drama of so-called war on terror, means that he must end this occupation. Second, he must stop arming these warlords and not negotiate with Taliban. The third alternative, he must support democratic-minded people of my country, justice-loving people of my country, that we have a lot like other countries around the world. And the fourth alternative, if really Mr. Obama honest for Afghan people, he must, together with UN, they must put pressure on neighbor countries like Iran, Pakistan, Russia, Uzbekistan, etc., who support Taliban and also the warlords. But unfortunately, right now, Mr. Obama, in the meantime that he following war in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and also supporting the criminal regime of Israel, and now war has been started in Pakistan as well. Democracy never comes by war.
Well, recently, our country has announced that it hasn't been formally announced that we're sending, or our government sending 40,000 more troops to Afghanistan. Now, rightfully, Afghanistan has been called the burial place of empires. There's never been an empire that has been able to subdue Afghanistan. What do you say to this policy of sending not just 40,000 more troops, but also support troops? What do you think my country is trying to accomplish in Afghanistan? Because it's certainly not going to be victory over the people of Afghanistan.
You know, I think the elementary meaning of democracy is government of people for people. But unfortunately, after 9/11 tragedies, enemies of these values like democracy, women's rights, human rights, with suit and tie, they come in power. And unfortunately, again, I'm saying that after 8 years that it's enough to know better about that, they continue the strong policy. As more troops in Afghanistan will bring more conflict, more war. This 30 years war in Afghanistan, that those who were in power, their leaders and that the leaders of these fundamentalist parties, leaders of Taliban, and also the leaders of puppet of Russia, we call them Khalkin Parchami. This criminal of 3-period war in Afghanistan, this 30 years war, now they join their hands together, and day by day they are getting powerful, and they have high posts in Afghanistan. Because since Cold War, US government and together with neighbor countries like Iran, Pakistan, Russia, Uzbekistan, etc., they supported these warlords, and also they created Taliban and destroyed the domination of Taliban. And after 9/11, back these warlords, without at least to say apologize to my people, those who did civil war in Afghanistan, they come in power. So now, once again, US and NATO, they changed my country to their playground. And this 30 years war, those who were in power, they committed crimes under the name of socialism, religion, it means Islam, and today democracy.
Well, we know, of course, during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan that the U.S. supported the Mujahideen, and we also recently found out, of course, they did it covertly through the CIA, right? There was no overt support of the Mujahideen. But we just recently found out that Hamid Karzai's brother is a drug lord, correct? One of the biggest in the country. And he's actually on the CIA payroll. So many people in America think that our involvement in Afghanistan just started after September 11th, 2001, but that's not true, is it?
I said since Cold War, U.S. government means CIA and also ISI and these some other countries like Saudi Arabistan, Iran, Russia, etc. They had their puppets in Afghanistan and supported them, and they invested millions of dollars on them. And still they are supporting them because they don't want to lose them. They are their puppets, and through them they can occupy my country as they occupied my country this 8 years. That they are in Afghanistan. They want to make their military base in Afghanistan because of geopolitical location of Afghanistan. When Afghanistan to be under their control, they can very easily control China, Iran, Russia, Uzbekistan, etc. Then very easily have access to the gas and oil of the Central Asian republics. And also in the world, after arms and oil trade, CIA receiving millions of dollars through dirty business of opium. As you said, that brother of Hamid Karzai, Ahmad Wali Karzai, even New York Times wrote recently that he's a famous drug trafficker and receiving millions of dollars by CIA. But this is not only brother of Hamid Karzai that my people nowadays call him a small bush in Kandahar province. Many other bushes, they are in power. For example, this during tragic drama of so-called free election, you saw that Abdullah running for the election with suit and tie, and U.S. government, especially CIA, tried to do whitewash for him, as the barn of Abdullah was on the lap of the CIA. And many others like Abdullah, Kanuni, Dostum, Ismail Khan, Sayaf, Rabbani, Golabzoi, Ulumi, Mullah Omar, etc. All of them are product of the U.S. government, and also puppet of even in these neighbor countries, these other countries, and still they are in power and support them. That's why today's situation is disaster for my people, especially for the women of my country. Today in Afghanistan, by presence of thousands of troops, millions of Afghans, they suffer from injustice, insecurity, corruption, joblessness, poverty, etc.
I'm just so sorry for that. And, you know, there's many of us on this side that are trying really hard to bring a peaceful end to what's happening in your country and in that region. But you have recently published a book. It's called Woman Among Warlords, right? And it has quite a long subtitle. Can you tell us, it's about your story, which is a very courageous story. Can you tell us the subtitle, the basic story of your trajectory to be a female in the Afghanistan parliament?
Yeah, Before answer your question, let me say that briefly now my people has been sandwiched, squashed between two powerful enemies. From the sky, as I said, occupation forces, bombing, killing civilians, and the ground, Taliban and warlords. So we want the withdrawal of the troops as soon as possible, as their government not honest for my people, and these troops killing civilians under the name of Taliban. So to fight against one enemy is much easier instead of two. But no question, for this difficult struggle, we need the helping hand of pro-democracy and also anti-fundamentalist movement around the world, and we need a helping hand of justice-loving organizations, anti-war movement, and intellectuals, for democratic-minded people of my country, through them to innocent people of my country, because we have a lot of democrat there in Afghanistan. Instead that you are sending more troops in Afghanistan, why they are not building hospitals, schools, how much education is important, as it is a main key toward emancipation. But billions of dollars the government of Hamid Karzai this 8 years received under the name of widows, orphans, reconstruction of Afghanistan, and also education, etc. Most of these monies went into pocket of the warlords, drug lords, NGO lords, these donors and officials themselves. And this is the democratic-minded people around the world. As always, people is separate from the wrong policymakers. Even the Democrat politicians who are in power, they have huge difference between the wrong policymakers, those who do war crime and dirty business with politics. So we need their helping hand, that they must raise their voice against occupation first, because occupation never brings liberation. And especially my country, we have proudful history that we never accept occupation. If they do not stop this occupation, with the passage of time, we will give good lesson to the US in NATO, 40 more countries who occupied my country, as we gave good lesson in the past to the Russia as a superpower country, and also British 3 times. But regarding my book, do you want me to say a few sentences?
Okay. First of all, yeah, I agree with everything you said. And in March, I'm going to start something in Washington, D.C., and we're actually going to take the city over until the government agrees to bring the troops home. And I would love for you to come, if you're back in the country, to come and inspire the people who are doing this, because we're going to be doing it every day until my government agrees to bring the troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan and stop drone bombing. You know, it's not good enough to bring physical troops out if you're still dropping bombs from drones or from airplanes. So I want to invite you to come to Peace of the Action, PEACE of the Action. We're going to set up camp, and we're going to do militant resistance every day until our demands are met. And I think your words would be very inspirational to us, to keep us going, because it's going to be a long haul. But you know, we're doing it for the people in these regions, the innocent people in these regions who, like you said, have too many enemies, too many struggles. So now please tell us about your book.
Okay, I will try my best to attend as many invitations from supporters around the world coming. Unfortunately, as I wish to answer to all of them, I can't, because it's very important to be in my country, as well as I am their underground activist for women's rights, human rights, and do struggle against occupation in the meantime, and these warlords Taliban, together with my people. So, but if I didn't attend, no matter, as we trust democratic-minded, justice-loving people around the world, women like you can be our voice in the outside, to raise your voice against occupation, against the war crime, wrong policy of your government. As always I'm saying, injustice anywhere is the start of justice everywhere. We need your solidarity. But regarding my book, it has 3 reasons I accept to write this book. First, to tell the truth, because still in my country, in a war country like Afghanistan, the first casualty is the truth. And mainstream media is still put dust on the eyes of the people around the world, and betraying the truth. Second, to expose the mask of these warlords through this book, as many books that has been written after 9/11 especially, and even some movies that has been made, only give one picture about Taliban, while they are not only Taliban, they are warlords as well, who photocopy of Taliban. They are in power and together continue to their fascism.